The president facing a new lawsuit this morning over the construction of that new ballroom to replace the recently demolished East Wing. What more are we learning?
The National Trust for Historic Preservation sued to block President Trump from building that new massive ballroom until the project receives a series of federal approvals.
Trump's lawyers just got absolutely destroyed. Judge Richard Leon on bench, George W. Bush appointee, conservative judge, and he's tearing apart Trump administration's legal arguments about White House ballroom. Justice Department lawyers standing at podium trying to defend Trump's authority to demolish East Wing of White House, to build 90,000 square foot ballroom without congressional approval, using $400 million in private donations funneled through scheme that judge keeps calling Rube Goldberg contraption. And Trump's lawyer is flailing, making comparisons that judge immediately shoots down, claiming Gerald Ford's swimming pool in 1975 is same thing as tearing down entire wing of White House, and Leon cutting him off. You compare that to ripping down East Wing. Come on, be serious. That's federal judge telling Trump's lawyer his arguments are joke. That defense has collapsed. That real consequences are coming. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown's show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are, but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what actually happened in this hearing, because it's devastating for Trump. National Trust for Historic Preservation sued Trump administration back in December, arguing Trump can't just tear down parts of White House without following law, without getting congressional approval, without doing environmental reviews, without letting public weigh in on destroying national icon. And Thursday, judge held hearing on their motion for preliminary injunction to stop construction. Share this video with everyone you know, because judge made clear from start he's not buying Trump's arguments. National Trust's lawyer opened by saying, President doesn't have constitutional authority to demolish East Wing and build ballroom. That Trump's not owner of White House, he's temporary tenant, and judge immediately agreed, said he's steward, not owner. That's judge establishing framework. President doesn't own White House. American people do. So president can't just do whatever he wants with it. Think about what that means. Judge is rejecting fundamental premise of Trump's case, that as president, he has unlimited authority over White House, that he can tear it down and rebuild it however he wants. Leon saying, no, you're steward, you're temporary occupant. You don't get to remake White House without following law, without getting approval from Congress, who represents American people who actually own building. Then discussion turned to funding mechanism. And this is where judge really started hammering Trump's lawyers, because Trump is using incredibly convoluted scheme to avoid congressional oversight. Private donors giving money to nonprofit transferring it to National Park Service. Park Service giving it to executive residence, which Trump controls. And then Trump using that money for $400 million construction project, all without Congress appropriating single dollar, without lawmakers having any say. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown's show, because Leon called this out explicitly. Multiple times during hearing, he described it as Rube Goldberg contraption. That's reference to cartoonist who drew absurdly complicated machines to do simple tasks. Judge is saying Trump created elaborate scheme specifically to evade congressional authority, to avoid having to ask lawmakers for permission, to circumvent normal appropriations process that Constitution requires. Trump's lawyer tried defending it, said president didn't want $400 million of taxpayer money to be used for this, so he's using private donations instead. But Leon wasn't buying it, said he saw no basis in legislative history of Park Service's gift authority that would allow Trump to use it this way. None. Zero. That's federal judge saying there's literally no legal foundation for what Trump is doing. No precedent, no statutory authority, nothing. Leon also demolished Trump's comparisons to past White House projects. Trump's lawyer kept citing Gerald Ford's swimming pool and cabana built in 1975, citing tennis pavilion Melania Trump added during first term, saying those didn't get congressional approval, so ballroom doesn't need it either, and Leon shut that down hard. You compare that to ripping down East Wing? Come on, be serious. Judge is saying those are tiny projects, minor improvements, not remotely comparable to demolishing entire wing and building structure bigger than White House itself. Think about what Leon is doing. He's not just ruling against Trump on technical legal grounds. He's calling out absurdity of arguments, telling government lawyers to be serious, saying their comparisons are ridiculous. That's Judge who's heard enough nonsense, who's not going to pretend Trump's scheme is legitimate just because lawyers put legal-sounding words around it. Real consequences are coming because Judge sees through it all. And size matters here. Ballroom project is approximately 89,000 square feet according to lead architect. Executive Mansion itself is only 55,000 square feet. Trump is building structure bigger than actual White House, bigger than building that's been there for over 200 years, and claiming he doesn't need congressional approval. That's what Leon is reacting to. Scale of what Trump is attempting without following proper process. Leon also questioned whether President even has power to make such massive changes. Asked Trump's lawyer, where do you see authority for President to tear down East Wing and build something in its place? That's fundamental question. Show me in law where President has this power. And answer was weak. Pointed to statute allowing President to spend money for repair, alteration, refurnishing, and improvement of executive residence. But demolishing entire wing and building new 90,000 square foot ballroom isn't repair, isn't refurnishing, it's complete reconstruction. Think about what that means. Trump claiming he can do this under law meant for routine maintenance and small improvements. Leon saying that's pretty expansive interpretation of language. That's Judge being diplomatic. What he means is Trump is stretching law far beyond what it was intended to cover, taking statute about fixing broken windows and repainting rooms and claiming it authorizes tearing down whole wing of White House. And Leon kept pushing on congressional role, noted that Republicans control both House and Senate, that Trump could have gone to lawmakers to get approval, could have asked Congress to appropriate money, could have followed normal process, but he didn't. Leon asking why not? Why this elaborate scheme with private donations if project is legitimate? An answer is obvious, because Trump knows Congress might say no, might question cost, might demand changes, might exercise oversight, so he's trying to bypass them entirely. Trump's lawyer's response was telling. Said Trump cares about this, so he wanted to keep it in-house, wanted to use personal staff, wanted total control. But that's exactly problem. President isn't supposed to have total control over White House. It's not his personal property. It belongs to American people, and making major changes to it requires going through proper channels, getting congressional approval, following established procedures. Trump wanting to keep it in-house isn't legal justification. It's admission he wants to avoid accountability. And Leon also heard from former National Park Service Director, Obama administration official who submitted sworn declaration, and he raised serious concerns about process. Said executive residence has little, if any, experience managing construction projects of any size, and no experience at all managing project size and importance of ballroom project in his opinion. That National Park Service has extensive experience with building design and construction, has teams of architects, engineers, project managers. Think about what that means. Trump is bypassing agency with expertise specifically to maintain personal control, putting project in hands of executive resident staff who've never managed anything this size, and doing it all with private money from donors whose names we don't fully know, who might expect favors in return, who might be buying influence by funding Trump's vanity project. That's corruption risk. That's why normal process requires congressional oversight. And National Trust lawyers made clear this isn't about whether ballroom is a good idea. It's about whether Trump has to follow law, whether president can unilaterally demolish parts of White House without environmental reviews, without public input, without congressional authorization. And Leon appears to agree that answer is no, that even if ballroom might be nice to have, Trump can't just bulldoze through legal requirements to build it. Leon said at end of hearing he'll likely issue decision in February, not this month, hopefully February, and he expects losing side to appeal. That's Judge being careful, knowing this ruling will be challenged regardless of which way he goes. But his comments during hearing left little doubt which way he's leaning. He's skeptical of Trump's authority, critical of funding scheme, dismissive of comparisons to past projects, all signals pointing toward ruling against Trump. What happens if Leon issues preliminary injunction stopping construction? Trump would have to halt work, couldn't proceed with above-ground building. Foundation work already ongoing might continue, but structural work scheduled for April would be blocked. And Trump would have to go through proper process, get congressional approval, do environmental reviews, allow public comment, everything he tried to avoid. But that would be huge loss for Trump. Personally and politically, he's been showing off ballroom plans to world leaders, to business titans, holding fundraising dinners for it, taking credit for historic beautification of White House, claiming it's much-needed project being done at zero cost to American taxpayer. But if Judge stops it, all that becomes embarrassment, becomes evidence Trump doesn't understand limits on presidential power, thinks he can do whatever he wants. Think about what Leon's ruling would mean for other Trump actions, because this is pattern. Trump claiming he has authority he doesn't have, bypassing normal processes, ignoring legal requirements, and courts saying, no, you don't have that power, you have to follow law. Whether it's deportations without due process, birthright citizenship executive order, firing Fed governors, defying court orders. Every time Trump claims unlimited presidential authority, judges push back. And Leon is conservative judge, Bush appointee, not partisan Democrat trying to block Trump. He's looking at law and finding Trump's arguments inadequate. That's what makes this so damaging. When even conservative judges appointed by Republican presidents are ruling against you, problem isn't judicial activism. Problem is what you're trying to do violates law. White House spokesman issued statement after hearing. Said President Trump is working 24/7 to make America great again, including his historic beautification of White House at no taxpayer expense. These long-needed upgrades will benefit generations of future presidents and American visitors to People's House. But that's spin, that's propaganda, doesn't address legal questions judge raised, doesn't explain why Trump can bypass Congress, doesn't justify Rube Goldberg funding scheme. Share this with everyone, because real issue isn't whether ballroom is nice. Real issue is rule of law. Whether president has to follow same legal processes as everyone else. Whether checks and balances mean anything. Whether Congress has role in major decisions about national property. And Leon is signaling answer is yes. That Trump doesn't get to remake White House just because he wants to. That Steward has responsibilities, limitations, requirements. Think about what that means. This ruling coming in February could be first major judicial defeat of 2026 for Trump. Setting tone for year, showing that courts won't rubber stamp his actions, won't accept claims of unlimited authority, won't let him bypass Congress through creative financing schemes, and if Leon rules against Trump, that becomes precedent. Other judges cite it. Other Trump overreaches get blocked using same logic, and timing matters. February ruling comes as Trump facing multiple other court battles. Criminal contempt proceedings against Trump officials for defying deportation orders. Rulings that Trump regime engaged in unconstitutional conspiracy. Multiple judges blocking Trump's election executive order. Pattern emerging of judicial resistance, of courts refusing to let Trump act like authoritarian. Leon's potential ruling fits perfectly into that pattern. Another judge, another case, another finding that Trump exceeded authority, violated law, ignored constitutional limits, and all of it building toward comprehensive picture of Trump administration operating outside legal boundaries, making itself vulnerable to impeachment, to criminal prosecution, to electoral defeat. Bottom line is this. Judge Richard Leon destroyed Trump's legal arguments about White House ballroom, called funding scheme Rube Goldberg contraption designed to evade congressional oversight, rejected comparison between ballroom and Gerald Ford swimming pool, said Trump is steward, not owner. Judge will rule in February and defense has collapsed. This story continues. Stay tuned.